As you guys know, we've launched our capital campaign for the garden school, and we wanted to just have an event to have an in-person opportunity to talk about where we're at and where we're going, and we'll open it up to questions and kind of talk about the potentials looking ahead. The key word is potential. Almost every person who comes to this property that I give a tour to, kind of takes in the space. Maybe we'll walk around the building, and believe me, this is the nicest part of the building, but they'll see, dusty old beams and they'll say, this place sure has a lot of potential. That's what we have a lot of. We have a lot of potential. So the question is, how do we turn potential into actual? Our answer to that question is partnership. 8 years ago, my brother and I were enamored with the potential of this property. My brother was working with youth for the food project. I think some of you knew him from then. He knew Joe, the previous owner of this place. They were volunteering at local youth group at First Baptist Church. And Joe had been talking about selling the property. He had been running a camp for 30 years. And so my brother kind of had this idea to start a school of his own, and I had had similar ambitions myself. My brother approached me and said, hey, you wanna partner with me on getting this thing going? At the time, I had just come back from traveling for 5 months in Europe. I didn't have any money, but I'm a landscaper. So I thought, all right, well, I can contribute my gift of landscaping. At the same time, I was hanging out with Ben McAdam, who's back there running the camera. He was kind of in a similar flexible stage of life. And so naturally, we were telling him about the idea too. He says, well, I can do web design. So it's like, all right, we got a farmer, a landscaper, and a web designer. Let's see what we can do. And so Ben amazingly found the web domain, thegardenschool.org, that was just available at the time, came up with the vision and presented it to Joe, and he thought it was a great idea, and he wanted to give us a chance to make it happen. So the first partnership was my brother and I, Ben joining in, helping. We came up with our idea, and we entered into a partnership with Joe and Cindy, who offered us very generous owner financing arrangement to give us a chance to get this going. They gave us a low interest rate balloon loan so we could just invest time and energy into getting the property into shape. It never could have happened, that initial stage, without the willingness of each offering what they had available. Before we knew it, before we kind of realized what we had gotten ourselves into, Joe handed us the keys and, dusted off his hands. I'll never forget the surreal experience of walking around this property the first day, sitting in its silent repose, filled with potential. And we asked ourselves, how on earth are we going to do this? In our vision of the potential, this is the kind of first drawing that I made of what we were imagining. So at the time, this was the potential. You may notice it's kind of wet, runny. I'll get to that in a minute. So the first plan was to convert the old tennis courts into a garden. And, there's the potential. The actual was a bunch of asphalt, pavement. How are we going to do this? I had my landscaping, and friends like Johnny and so many others helped out tearing down the fencing. Through our sweat, we, got the old tennis courts out of there. But we don't have any dirt. You can't have a garden without dirt. So the sweet soul, Gary, who runs the loader next door at the compost facility, we were friends with him. He said, "Hey, I have dirt." And he drove over load by load, 4 cubic yards at a time, and brought us hundreds of yards of compost and gave us our garden. Once again, just something that occurred beyond anything we could do ourselves. The area was heavily forested, big trees down there, overgrown over the tennis courts, way beyond anything. I mean, I can run a chainsaw, but it was way beyond anything we could do. Our friend Dan Mayer, he runs a successful tree company in Essex. He said, "I have tree equipment. I'll come take down those trees for you." Sure enough, he brought his fleet here and took down all the trees and opened up the sunlight for our garden. The list goes on and on and on of people who have stepped in right when we needed them to make it happen. Of course, my mom has always been there. She has given all that she has to this place. Jen has given so much. Anita, who's not here, had recently retired, and she helped out a lot with the farm stand. There'd be no way to list all the contributions that people had made. But before we knew it, through the power of partnership, we had a thriving garden and we were producing food. And so we opened a farm stand, and then we're selling food to the community. And this potential was no longer just a potential. It became an actual through the magic of partnership. Once we got the garden in place and going, that was our first goal. We would look up at this old building, and many of you have seen, and if you've looked at the pictures, this was looming over our undertaking. This flat roof was leaking very badly. In fact, this drawing that I had to inspire us to keep our vision clear of what we're going for, I had it on the wall there to remind us of what we're going for. And then when the major leak sprung, waters poured through and poured over my painting. Almost destroyed the painting. I'll never forget one night I came out here. It must have been the middle of the night. We had a terrible, terrible storm. And it was like a waterfall coming into the room. And I stood here with my face in my hands and I said, how are we ever going to do this? I had no idea. And so we put another call out to the community, a call for support. And once again, through partnership, we triumphed. Obviously, we've overcome that hurdle, and it was through a woman, Susanna Colorado Mansfeld, who stepped in at the time and laid out the capital for us. We needed to do an emergency repair on the roof. We completely replaced the roof, and we put in that skylight. This is what I was dreaming of when I was watching the water fall through the ceiling. I was imagining this is the potential what this room could be. There was a time when it was just a drawing and a leak. And because of Susanna and others who contributed, we were able to replace the flat roof at the very least and stop the bleeding. And there was much more to do. You know, it was still rough beams, and I have a dear friend, Jack Tetch, and he said, I don't have much, but I'm a painter. I can help you. And Jack came in here and he started refinishing all the wainscoting, re-skimming the ceilings. Next thing you know, he sets up his scaffolding. I have a picture up there of him. On the outside, he starts scraping the side of the building, the old paint. He starts painting. It's bringing me to tears, what people have done for us. And now look at the building now. It's beautiful. it just simply would not have been possible for me or my brother at so many steps of the way to come even remotely close to where we've come without the many people. Johnny's my former boss. He taught me most of what I know about landscaping. I taught him a few things too. He put in the pond for us. We had a terrible flooding problem. He put in the pond for us at cost with all his heavy equipment and his crew of stonemasons. This that I had been envisioning and hoping for years and years. Just this past year, boom, came into existence because Johnny stepped up and was willing to be generous with his company. You see, we each have a gift to offer. Everybody's gift is different. It may be painting, maybe landscaping, maybe web design, flower work, interior design, so many things, speaking, the list goes on and on. And for some people are well endowed with capital, like Susanna, who was there when we needed her, when the roof was leaking. And we are in a situation now where capital is the gift that's needed in order for us to continue to unlock the potentials of this place. Capital is like the air, the oxygen that keeps a fire burning. No matter the amount of logs you put in a wood stove, it's not going to heat the house unless it has air to feed the flame. And as many partnerships as we've had, partnerships come and go. Starting out with my brother, what he did is just incredible, how selflessly he gave himself to this project. And circumstances would have it that he would move on to upstate New York. He moved on a year ago. By that time, I was wise enough to find a carpenter in his place instead of a farmer, as we learned how much we need to do with the building. And so that was a big change. But now with Brian, who couldn't be here today, Brian is a historical restoration specialist, works at the House of Seven Gables. So we have brought him on board, and with this new partnership with Brian, it's going to open up all sorts of new potentials for the work that we can do in this building. These little bits that we've been able to accomplish, the garden, the pond, this room, it sets the pattern for the potential. What we've done in this room, we can do in the rest of the building. What we did with that little pond, maybe later we'll walk down there, we can do with the whole property. And of course, the other partnership that is coming and going is our partnership with the Bosches, who provided this loan for us. The loan is coming up in July, and we have done our part to realize the potential of this partnership. And certainly it has borne fruit. But now we're seeking a new partnership as the partnership with Joe and Cindy passes away, and we're asking the community to partner with us to reach our capital needs, to keep this living monument to cooperation going. There's some exciting things that have been unlocked. We completed this room this past year. Up to this time, we've just been running all of our programming outside. And so now that we have this room, we've actually been able to use it and rent it out for events. We've been having tons of kids coming in here, homeschool kids. And I just wanted to say that what it's really all about is as much potential as this lovely property has, it's the kids who have the greatest potential. And the whole reason for all of this is to provide a place for the potential to be unlocked in the next generation, like this guy. You want to say something, Carl? He's a little shy. So, all this to say, we have seen the miracle of potentials get unlocked. And it's a miracle because it's something that you can't do on your own. It's something that happens from outside you, and it's happened from so many people at every step of the way, coming in and helping out and contributing their gifts. And so now here we are at this threshold, at this turning point, where we're asking you to consider what gifts you have to contribute. Maybe skills, maybe labor, it may be capital. But only through partnership will these amazing potentials, not only in this building, but most importantly in the next generation, be unlocked. And at this point, I wanted to mention that Susanna, who contributed early on to the repair of this roof, has offered at this stage a $20,000 matching gift. So if we're able to reach 20,000, up to 20,000, she'll match every dollar. If we can reach that point, then who knows, what will happen next after that. So just as a point of encouragement, I wanted to mention that. So take some time to think in your hearts and in your minds how you might want to partnership with us, how you might want to contribute to what we're doing here. And, we didn't know exactly how things would look, all the effort we put into this room, and to see the kids in here, the homeschool kids, and just to imagine what else could be has just brought so much joy to my heart. And of course, all these beautiful dreams hinge upon our success in this first milestone of our campaign. So that's where we're at. Thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask any questions.
Is that correct?
Well, we've raised 30,000. The goal is $1 million. We don't have the cash flow to get a bank loan for $1 million. We think that if we approached 500,000, we might be able to afford a bank loan. The hard reality is Plan B. We just have to start looking for a buyer and sell the property. If we can't figure out some sort of, raising some of the money and maybe getting a private loan or a bank loan. Well, we had a meeting here last summer where we kind of introduced the situation we're in. We opened it up to the community. Actually, Jen came and we formed a capital campaign committee who helped us come up with that pamphlet. I think I saw you had the pamphlet and, the whole brand of the campaign. Johanna and Larry Burke live in the farms, and they helped with the capital campaign for the Beverly Farms Public Library. So they have been coaching us, at least with the pamphlet, and there's a couple others who are kind of on board helping us along with this. As far as we've come, this is just the beginning. The whole vision or focus of the place is to get the young people, really people of all ages, into the garden to teach horticulture. It's our fundamental mission is for every individual to learn how to garden. So working with the existing public school system is very difficult, and instead of just sort of focusing on policy or whatever, we're just trying to create a picture, a pattern of what that can actually look like. And with Erica's group, we have an opportunity, sort of a fully formed class already of young people who we're looking forward to this year, sort of the pilot program for children of the horticultural education. And the thought is, oh, there's my cat, Baron. He's been here from the beginning too. So our hope with this group is to kind of, for it to be the pilot program for younger age children, and we're all kind of working on coming up with the curriculum, of what this will look like. It's a generative project, it's a living organism, and we're sort of creating it as we go, and now we're getting the pieces into place. In terms of the infrastructure, the priority is to complete the work down at the farm. We want to continue to put in steps and retaining walls. There's kind of a lot of rough edges down there. We want to put in a greenhouse down there, a shed, a barn. That white building out there, we want to renovate it and turn it into housing for a resident farmer, or somebody that's actually living here full time, managing the farm. So the priority is kind of down there, that lower area, to really nail down the horticulture program in a very formal sense and complete the garden. And then sort of stage 3, so stage 1 is, being able to stay here. Stage 2 is creating a learning paradise. And then stage 3 will be working on completing this building. And the long-term goal is to have residential students perhaps from afar. So how I kind of view this next stage, if we can get past this hurdle, is sort of creating the substance of the school, of the garden school, and the Beverly community, or the North Shore community, will sort of act as the host culture of this offering that we have for the world. And then I spent some time in my life living internationally. I'm married to a foreigner. I have a desire and a heart, especially for people from other countries, especially less developed countries, but from all countries. I just know how special it is here. The rest of the world isn't like this. I want to have a place where people can come for a season, for a few weeks, maybe for a whole year, and experience what we have. And we as a community here, as a culture, can give that as a gift. And so that's stage 3, to have the residential. And then, of course, with this building, we have ambitions to have public lecture events, or just other cultural events, musical events. I mean, the sky's the limit, really. So that's kind of the stages of the potentials that will open up to us if we can reach this first financial goal. We all, I can't remember if I said it in my speech, but we all have a memory of a forest that we used to play in when we were a kid. Or, I think of Old Man Sweeney down the road here in his nursery. Just all these things that are just a memory. When every last dollar has been made on all the real estate in our town, as Cat Stevens said, where do the children play? So, we don't have the power to necessarily prevent it, but we have done everything we can these past 8 years, at least with this one little piece. I'm standing here today asking the community to rally to save this property. I want to thank you guys for coming out. And just enjoy, we have some refreshments here. You can look at the drawings, and then maybe at some point, if anybody's interested, I'd be happy to walk down. We can kind of look at the grounds and talk about, what we're hoping to do. So, thank you.